Fall is my favorite time of the year. Temperatures are cooler. You get bright colors. Fall lets you know that change is about to happen and things are going to, I can't say be different, but be different for a short period of time. If you're new here, my name is Jackie, and I would like to welcome you to my channel, Jackie Russell Create, where we give tips, tricks, hacks, teach techniques, and talk about everything quilting, and throw in some sewing ideas and stuff as well. So if you would please be so kind to hit the subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate it. So like I said, fall is my favorite time of the year. And today, in this video, we are going to make some faux chenille coasters, pumpkin coasters. Aren't those just too adorable? So in the past couple days, I've been testing and seeing which techniques, which way works better. And I've actually been pretty surprised. I was kind of skeptical at first, but I'm really surprised of how simple and easy the chenille is. Now I'm ready to make all kinds of different stuff with this faux chenille technique. So if you're excited, just like I am, then stick around and let's get started making these cute pumpkin coasters. So for each coaster, you're going to need very minimal supplies. You're going to need 4 pieces of fabric that is cut at 6-inch square, and that is just to fit our pumpkin template. Now if you have a different template that you want to use, or draw your own pumpkin, say you want a little taller pumpkin, tall and skinny, just cut your fabric according to that. But you need, like I said, we're going to need 4 pieces of fabric, and we're going to line them up the best that we can line up. But what you want to do is you want to lay down your first fabric, I'll show it this one, so that the pretty side is facing down. Then you want to put your other 3 fabrics with the right sides facing up. So you have a sandwich, but you can be able to see the right side on each side of the sandwich. Then you're going to take a ruler and you're going to draw a line down the bias on just the top one fabric from corner to corner. That's going to be our first sew stitch or sew line. That's the only one you have to mark. The rest of them I just use my presser foot with to give me the other stitches. So I'm going to line these corners up as best as I can, and then I like to pin on each side just to hold those fabrics together while I'm stitching. I didn't do this the first one, and I'll show you if you can see it here. The fabric started to move. Yeah, you can't really tell. The fabric started to move and bunch up, and it wasn't straight anymore. And so the second one I pinned. I used a friction pin here so I can iron it and get rid of that marking. You could also use a water soluble because these will get more soft and distressed as they get washed. These have not been washed. These have only been pushed with my fingers and my fingernails to give the texture. But as you wash them, it's going to be just like how you do a rag quilt, and they'll fray and get more texture and be softer and look more like chenille. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the sewing machine and we're going to sew right down this line. And then I'm going to move it over and I'm going to put my presser foot right along the edge or just real close to the edge and sew down another stitch and keep moving clear over to the ends. So here we are at the sewing machine, and I'm just going to stitch right down that line. You do not have to back stitch at the beginning or the end, and I am just using the regular stitching that my machine, when I turn it on, it gives, which is 2.4. And I don't even trim my thread. I'm just going to rotate it, line up that presser foot is by that pin marking, and make another stitch down. I chose yellow thread. I was hoping it would show up, but it's also a fall color, so it will kind of blend in. Here is what they look like on the back, so you can see the lines. So now I'm just going to rotate this again without cutting my threads. Now I'm going to go on the opposite side. This just kind of helps keep everything uniform. Rotate it, and now I'm going to go just on lining up that stitch with my presser foot. So what is one thing that you do every year during the fall season? Comment below and let me know. If you're enjoying this technique, give the video a thumbs up, and if you know someone else that would like to learn how to make faux chenille, be sure to share the video with them. There's so much you can do with the faux chenille. I'm thinking, you know, a quilt block or even a whole quilt would be so pretty, a baby's quilt. So now my strings are starting to get in the way, so I'm going to go ahead and trim them off. And I'm just going to go and sew the rest of this up, and then I'll show you how we'll finish up these hot pads, or coasters. When I do get about 3-4 on each side of the center line, I just continue to go to the end and not rotate anymore. I just flip it around and keep going on this side till I'm all the way to the edge. So I don't know if you can see the lines on the back that well on camera, but here's a sample of how they are. What you're going to do is you're going to take your water soluble or a heat pen, and you're going to lay your pumpkin out and trace him. Now I found that I liked it when the lines were going diagonal through the pumpkin. You can have them going up and down or side by side. And then you're going to trace your design on, I traced one on the back. This one I'm tracing along the back. You trace it, now we're going to cut it. So you would take your scissors and you're going to go in underneath all the fabric except for the bottom one. You want to keep that one whole. And then you would just use your scissors and cut down all the way down. And of course I pick one of the longest ones to do first. Now after a while, your hands get tired of cutting these long strips. And you're wondering, what else can you use? Well, I found, or was recommended, this clover slash cutter. I'll link to it down below. And it has two of these pointy plastic guides, I guess. This one is for cutting straight, and then the other one is for cutting curves. And so what happens is you put your fabric into your fabric, leaving that bottom one, and you slide right through your fabric. Well, what happens is your blade is not moving. You're just sliding the fabric through underneath the blade, and it's cutting your fabric. Well, eventually your blade's going to get dull. Well, there's numbers here, and you just rotate it when that section gets dull and add, and then it gives you a sharp part of the blade, and you keep going. And once you're all the way around, that's when you'll replace your blade. So, once again, you're just going to slide it in. You can pre-cut these if you want. Like, do just a little slit here to kind of get it going. Put your fabric in and slide. I haven't seen where that helps. I guess it could help in the beginning. But you want to make sure you don't cut that bottom piece of fabric. And just keep on sliding till you have them all. Okay, so yes, pre-snipping the beginning actually is helping get started. So I'm going to go in and just a little snip on each of the channels. That's what you're cutting in, is in between each of those where we made a channel, all the way to the last channel. That one I'm just going to clip because it's so short. Once you get the groove and the hang of it, this goes really fast and really easy. I can see where you can do a block with this and make a nice fuzzy chenille blanket for a baby's blanket. Now I just rotated it. I started from the center and worked out. I'm just going to do the same thing on this side. Give it a pretty little clip. So what I'm doing, I'll turn around so you can see, I'm putting the tip of my scissors in, but leaving that bottom fabric and just making a little slit. I like to trace the design, the pumpkin design, first, so it's easier to trace onto the back of the fabric. And the reason you want to cut your channels first before you cut your, or sew your pumpkin shape, is that way you don't cut through your stitches, because you want it to give that chenille effect. And if you cut your stitches, then you're risking it falling apart because there's nothing else holding them down. When you stitch around your shape, that's giving you the secureness. You could, instead of making coasters, you could add these chenille pumpkins onto a quilt. You can applique, put heat and bond or any other fusible on the back, and place them on a quilt. So now that we have it all cut apart, we're going to take it to the sewing machine and we're going to cut along the line that we traced. And now you're just going to trim along the edge, just leaving a little bit. Don't have to be much. Just make sure you don't cut into your stitch mark of the pumpkin. So my favorite thing to do in the fall time is we take our grandkids to the pumpkin patch. We've been doing it for about 5 years now. We let them pick out their own pumpkins. The only stipulation that we have is they have to be able to carry it back to the cart. So here it's pretty much finished. You can use it as it is, but now we're going to make it fluffy. And all you do is use your fingernails, and just kind of go one direction and pull it up, rotate it, come back, use your fingernails, go along the edges, down the seam lines, to really just break up them fibers and get them. You can use a brush, kind of like a wire brush, but you don't want to use the wire part. You want to use one that has more like bristles, the plastic bristles. You can throw them in the washing machine and dry them. You can even just throw them into the dryer and let them tumble dry, just to really work in those grooves. And there is your chenille coaster, where, like I said, you could use it and applique it onto a quilt to give some texture to the quilt. What you would do is cut out your shape and then fuse it onto your quilt block, and then you'll just applique around the edge to hold it in place on your quilt block. So I hope you enjoyed this video and making these cute faux chenille coasters or applique pieces, depending on how you want to use them. So let me know what you thought. Please give it a share. Let me know what your favorite pastime is to do during the fall season. And until then, happy quilting, my friends.